What's going on, you guys? Back again with another video. In our previous video, you saw me working on the front king suspension setup for my 2018 Toyota Tacoma. Today we're going to be working on the rear setup. As you can see, the truck is off the ground on jack stands and ready to go. We're going to go ahead and dive right into this install. I'm going to try to maybe do one side first and then tell you guys exactly how I'm going to do the opposite side. As you guys can see, my tools are an absolute mess. So I'm going to go ahead and clean some of this up, grab the tools that we need. That way I'm not fumbling for tools or throw out all this crap. And then dive right into it. Hopefully after today, we'll have a fully lifted Toyota Tacoma. Alright, you guys, so as you can see, I went ahead and finished up one of the rear sides. I wanted to kind of just learn it for myself before I brought the camera along with me to try to explain it better to you guys. I got one side completely done on the rear end, so I'm just going to point out real quickly what it is that I had to do. And then I'll go to the driver's side and I'll show you exactly the same process over there. So as you can see, we got our king shock in place. To remove our old one, all we had to do was remove this top nut, holding it in place, and then this bottom nut, holding the bottom part in place. That was it. That was enough for me to just be able to lift and remove the OEM shock leaf spring. To remove the OEM leaf spring, I had to remove the 4 bottom bolts holding it in place there. Remove the old U-bolts, remove the bump stop here, and then on the front side I had to remove this big bolt. Let's see if the camera can pick it up. This front swing arm bolt here, and then these two back here. This is the shackle that actually allows the whole leaf spring to kind of move and settle in place and align itself pretty much. And then once I had all the OEM stuff removed, it was all about just putting back and in the new stuff. Pretty simple. I mean, the new leaf spring was pretty heavy itself, but fairly simple. Bolt off, bolt on. As of right now, this shackle bolt here, that's going to help us align the actual whole leaf spring down once it's on the ground with tires. That's when I'm going to go ahead and tie in this bolt up. So as of right now, I still got to tie in this rear bolt on the shackle and this top bolt on the spring itself. Once I get the tire on, or once I finish the other side, get the tire on both sides and drop the whole car, that's when this leaf spring will settle properly where it has to go, and that's when I'll tie in that and this. So all I got left to do is my driver's side. I'll show you guys that more in detail. And then I also got to do a CV differential drop, which is right there. It's basically just 2 spacers. Now if you guys saw that front video, you guys saw and noticed that I did a diff drop in the front. And basically all I'm doing back here is providing that same angle all the way through to our rear end. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the passenger side. Not too bad. It was kind of a learning curve on this side, but overall it only took me maybe an hour and a half. So I expect to do the other side in maybe 45 minutes. That is if I wasn't speaking to you guys. So we'll pick it up on that side. Before moving any further, you guys, like the front video, I did a side-by-side of the coilovers and upper control arms. I'm going to do a side-by-side of the rear springs, which are, I'm sorry, the rear shocks. As you can see, King's 2.5, way beefier, obviously remote reservoir. The leaf packs in the rear. OME's medium duty. Pretty drastic, the difference between the two, I must say. Alright, you guys, so moving on to the passenger side. First steps first, I'm going to get rid of this stock shock. What you want to do is you want to get a 14mm along with a 6mm to hold the whole body from spinning on you. So now we're going to go ahead and hit this bottom bolt that's holding it in place, and this is a 17. Lucky enough to have an air compressor, and then just pull right out, and that's that. Now it's out. Put this all back together and we'll continue to start removing items to get this leaf spring out. Alright, you guys, so before I move on to removing these 4 bolts that hold the U-bolts for the leaf springs, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a 12mm wrench, remove this brake line just to get it out of the way and off of the stock leaf spring. Now, another thing that you got to be real careful about on this driver's side is these brake lines. You don't want to put a lot of tension on these brake lines. You don't want them to rip. That would suck. I mean, if mine did rip, I have replacements, but in your case or in a lot of people's cases, you may not have those. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my jack and jack stand. Move forward, remove this, and then start removing the 4 bolts holding the U-bolts onto the lift springs. Next step, once you got all that loose, you want to keep track of the way it came out, because the same way that bottom plate came out is the same way it's going to go in. Next, you want to just remove your U-bolts on both sides. Alright, so with those U-bolts off, we're going to go ahead and move to the front bolt, the rear bolt holding the stock leaf spring in place. Alright, so now what I want to do is I want to remove the tension off of these leaf springs before I start working on the bolts that are supporting its weight. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and lower this jack. Now, of course, like I said earlier, I want to keep an eye on these hoses and make sure that I don't put tension, or at least not too much tension, on those brake lines. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this supporting jack and just slowly start to bring it down. Alright, as you can see, the leaf spring now has come off of the rear diff. I don't have tension in these lines, so that's good. So we'll go ahead and continue working on these bolts. Alright you guys, so we're looking at the 2 rear shackle and mounting bolts for the stock leaf spring. What I have here is I have a large breaker bar. Since I can't get my impact wrench in between here, I'm just going to use a breaker bar. I learned from the other side that you want to start with this top one first, because once you remove that front one and let that dangle, this will actually begin to pivot on you, which you don't want. So go ahead and get a 19mm wrench on the backside. Get your breaker bar. Just gonna pull just like that. Pull it out the rest of the way. I'm gonna do the same for this bottom one. Now before I push those screws out, I'm going to make sure I got that front one loose as well. Alright, so as you can see back here, that shackle kind of moving it forward gave us enough room to just be able to knock that one out. As you can see, it's still kind of hitting this support. So what you want to do now is you want to kind of wiggle it forward. And actually you're going to have to drop your jack a little bit. So you can see still no tension in the line, in those brake lines, so that's good. Almost clear. And there you go. Hopefully you can see that. Hopefully the camera's getting it. There you go. Bolts out. Now with that bolt out, we're able to just lift. Back out over the handbrake line so you don't bend anything. And just finagle its way out, and that's it. Stock leaf spring is out. So we'll move over to the OME leaf spring. I'll show you guys how to build that as far as putting the bushings in place, the metal sleeve, and then we'll bring it over and install it. Alright you guys, so moving on with the new OME leaf springs. They send you a packet looking like this, and basically what it is it's your bushings with your metal sleeve going inside of it. Now you will need a pair exactly like this for each side, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. All you do is you basically spare it apart, and it comes with a supplied grease as well. What I do is I just grab the grease on each bushing, run it alongside just the bottom, just the bead, because when I go to slide it in, it's all going to push out anyways. And most of the time, and it's been happening to me pretty much this whole time I've been doing it, the grease will still come out on the other side when you push it through. And then I kind of just run the beads upwards. Get it nice and spread out evenly. This stuff is extremely sticky and messy, so you don't want this on your hands. That's why I'm wearing gloves. And basically all you do with this grease being on there makes it extremely easy to just push it through. You do want a dead blow hammer on standby just in case you need it. Push through this metal sleeve. And it kind of seems like they're already a little greased up from factory. But, I mean, they send this grease for a reason, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. Same thing on the other side. And now you might need the dead blow hammer for this, but you're just going to start pushing it in. Get your dead blow, support the other side. Once you get to the end, push it the rest of the way through. Then it helps to have like a shop rag or maybe some of these blue shop towels and just wipe off the excess. The plus sign, this end of the leaf spring always goes facing towards the front of the truck. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get our shackle, which is still on the truck. If you remember earlier, we released the bolts, the both upper and lower bolt, and the shackle stayed on the truck. So I'm going to go pull the bolt, bring the shackle over, install it on the back end of the new leaf spring with the supplied or with the OEM nut and bolt. You want to remember the same way that the bolt came out is the same orientation that you want to put it in over here. So I'm gonna go get that. Alright you guys, so here is the stock shackle or the OEM shackle that's on the truck. I'm gonna lift it and put it in the orientation that it's going in the truck. This will be in the back. So your shackle is just gonna line up just like that. Now what you want to go ahead and do is you want to get your OEM bolt, and the way that it was coming through on the truck was from the inside on the tire side, straight through there. Get your nut on the other side, put it hand tight for now, and then move on to mounting it to the truck. Alright you guys, so this is probably the hardest part of doing it not on a lift, is lifting this thing solo. If you have another set of hands, if you have a buddy to give you some help doing this, it'll make it to be way easier, but it can be done solo, and I already did it on the other side, so I'll go ahead and show you. Feed it through. Now it's kind of resting on the diff. As you can see, I put the tail in first past the shackle. Now I'm going to slide it into place. There you go. As you can see, I got that front shackle lined up pretty good. I don't know if the camera's picking it up. And now, all I gotta do is put the rear shackle in place. Alright you guys, so I've been fighting with this leaf spring for a little bit. I got both bolts and nuts in the back. I'm working on this front one right now. Now I did want to point something out. There is a screw that's coming all the way through. Right in the middle. On the top side goes your bump stop. Right at the bottom, the screw lines up to a middle hole that's actually on the diff itself, and that's how you know it's aligned properly. Up here, once you get the bolt through, I'm using the same method of just getting the socket on the screw and by hand screwing it all the way through to the other side. Now once it gets kind of tough, just get your ratchet. Now we're pretty much going to go ahead and torque this one down, torque the upper shackle bolt in the rear down, and then we're going to leave that bottom shackle nut loose as well as we did on the other side, and then we're going to continue to install our bump stock, supplied new longer U-bolts, and then your bottom hat. Alright you guys, so I continued forward. My camera died on me, but continued with the install. The 4 bolts that I installed for the longer U-bolts for the new springs require a 75 foot-pounds of torque to get torqued down. Now the key about those 4 underneath screws are nuts, is that they come with their own separate hardware for OME springs. So you use their hardware, and what you want to do is you want to make sure that all 4 go up kind of together and evenly, so you have the same amount of even threads on all 4 corners. I torqued those down. I torqued down my front leaf spring bolt to about 89 foot-pounds, I believe it is. I have the spec sheet. I looked it up. Torqued those down. I torqued down the upper shackle bolt over here in the rear. I did leave that bottom one loose the same way I told you guys earlier, and the same way that I left the passenger side one loose. Now I'm going to move on to mounting our shock, or king shock. Now on the passenger side, to mount the reservoir bracket, which is this here, on the opposite side they give you hardware for that to be able to mount over there. For this driver's side, you use the hardware that's already on a brake line bracket that's up here. So alright you guys, as you can see, the lift is 100% on. Tires are on all four corners. My camera again died, so I wasn't able to film everything. So I'm gonna go real quickly over what it is that you guys missed. Like I said, if you guys remember, I left that bolt loose down here on this bottom shackle bolt. I left it loose, jumped on the truck once it was all installed and the wheels were down. This is now tight and torqued. Same with the up here. This nut up here is now tight and torqued down. This is in place. The only other thing that I missed, that I did, that you guys really missed, is the CB drop, which is this part, the CB joint of the differential. And all it is a spacer, longer bolt that they're supplied on the kit, washer, and lock washer. And that's it. Once again, I spoke to Kings, and they did not say that it was necessary. They said that it was actually unnecessary to do the CB drop that I did and the front diff drop that I did. But they did say that it would be a good idea. It wouldn't be bad to do. I feel more comfortable keeping that same angle all the way through from the front to the back. And I also feel more comfortable knowing that my front axles and CV boots aren't all, you know, angled or overly tilted, so I don't rip one of those front axle boots. That's pretty much it. I'm gonna go ahead and roll this truck out. I'm gonna turn all the way left and all the way right. Now I know that I am rubbing up front as expected, so I'm gonna mark where it is that I'm rubbing, get the Dremel, start dremeling some of that out, and I'm also gonna take measurements. There she is. I definitely need an alignment. I'm gonna mark what areas I have to trim right now, as you can see, real close, and on one side it's actually already rubbing right there. That's all plastic, so I'm okay with that. I'm okay to trim that off. As you can see, it kind of looks like the rear is a little higher than the front, which I kind of don't like. I would love for it to be level, so I'm gonna wait for it to settle some more. I'm sure over time those springs will settle and it'll actually come down in the rear. If not, I mean, we can always adjust the front, but we are gonna sacrifice ride quality. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some measurements, mark with the marker where I need to trim, and we'll pick it back up. All right, you guys, so after all the necessary trimming, this is the aftermath. A bunch of just plastic pieces. There was a little bit of metal pieces involved, but not too many. Like, that was probably the biggest piece there of metal. Now I am gonna take a sanding bit for the Dremel to kind of sand down all the edges and make it look nicer and cleaner. But as of right now, we are not rubbing. The only place we actually do rub is right here on the cab mount chop, and that is only at full turn, either right or left on both sides. Actually, we managed to scrape the CMC. Now, I'm pretty sure it's not the CMC. I'm gonna hit up my boy Gerardo at Beast Fab SoCal. He's the one that did this for us. I'm gonna hit him up. I'm pretty sure it is not the CMC itself. I'm pretty sure it's the alignment of the truck. The truck definitely does need alignment. The truck definitely does need an alignment. I can definitely see the tires poking out oddly just by looking at it. So if I can notice it just by looking at it, I'm sure it's going to be pretty damn off. But anyways, as you can see, I kind of cut off some of the plastic here, some of the metal down, some of that metal in there as well. All of it was bent backwards, so there is no sharp edges. But like I said, I am going to take a sanding tool and kind of just sand all this rigidness down, make it look a little better. Up here, it looks like a freaking shark or cat bit my fender liner. But once again, I'm just gonna go back and sand all this down. I'm pretty sure eventually this bolt here will break, and I thought about just unscrewing it myself. I don't know if the camera's getting it, but this bolt here, it's a bolt. I thought of just cutting it myself and making it nice and round and clean, but I figured what the hell, at least it's a mounting point, but it's a very small and thin mounting point. So whenever this does snap in half, I'll just go back with the Dremel and cut it out and clean it up. Went ahead and did the same on this side. As you can see, it looks like my truck got freaking bit. Now the metal work here, I kind of just rolled it back and up, and this is sheet metal, so it was very easily cut. The Dremel cut through it no problem, and very easily bent as well. So all I'm gonna do is, like I said, take a sanding piece, sand all this down. Same on the front. As you can see, once again, the only thing really holding this part of the fender liner at this bottom piece is just this small little gap here. But once again, if that ever does break on me, then no big deal. I'll just round it off, make it look nice and clean, and that's pretty much it. Final quick message, you guys. If you guys are interested in this TRD off-road spec suspension from leaf springs, rear coilovers, front coilovers, and upper control arms, make sure you hit me up either on this Instagram, email, I'll leave that down below, or check out the Instagram Vilmont Market, which they will definitely be on sale there as well. But that is pretty much it, you guys. I'm really hoping you guys enjoyed these last two videos on this install. It's been a hell of a ride, and honestly, I'm super excited that I'm able to say that I did it myself. Now, I will say I ended up taking probably 12 to 15 hours on this whole install, and that's from troubleshooting to learning to videotaping to talking to you guys to getting my tools together to creating this freaking mess, which, you know what? For the experience and for the journey and the ability to be able to say that I put that on my truck, it's definitely worth it, and I'd definitely do it again. But that's pretty much it, you guys. One last time, huge shout out to my boy Drew over at Vilmont Market. That's their Instagram. Check out that Instagram. He is the one that made it possible for us to win this King's coilover set off of a $60 raffle. That's correct, a $60 raffle bought me my set of King's coilovers. So make sure you check out that Instagram and make sure you get in on the next one. Besides that, huge shout out to my buddy Gerardo at Beast Fab SoCal for that CMC that definitely came through and definitely put in work now that I got these 34s without that CMC, I don't think these 34s would have fit whatsoever. So that's pretty much it, you guys. Like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you check me out on Instagram. Peace.